Hey everybody, welcome to this Caregiver Coffee. My name is Matthew Estrad. I'm a gerontologist in St. Tammany Parish, working with the Council on Aging in St. Tammany for almost 10 years. And Happy New Year. So it's 2025. Recording this on January the 10th. So not too far from the New Year's Day. And we're going to talk about looking at 2025. We have the whole year, we have 12 months ahead of us. So we're gonna, like a lot of people are perhaps, we're gonna kind of pause and take a look at what the year could be for us. And I'll kind of take you through some questions, some of it related to things that we've talked about before, but certainly in the vein of being an older adult, in the vein of potentially being some of y'all watching this are caregivers. So we're starting the year fresh, and we'll talk about some of these concepts I think are important for all of us to think about. Caregivers, older adults, young adults. I mean, there's some for everybody, but since you're watching, this is what we're going to talk about. So, um, before we get started with that, the caregiver support group is something that I facilitate. That is something I've been doing with the Council on Aging for almost 10 years. This April coming up, April 2025 will make 10 years. I'm just very humbled and grateful for the opportunity and everything that I've learned along the way and been blessed to pass along as well. So that is something that we do every Tuesday evening. Now, sometimes there are exceptions. Of course, we don't meet on Mardi Gras Day, and in this past Christmas season, we did not meet on Christmas Eve. So sometimes there is a change, and that's why we have a schedule. So I encourage you to navigate over to the Council on Aging in St. Tammany's website, which if you're on the Facebook page, which most of y'all are watching this here, or on Instagram, that's an easy click to the Coast website. And then if you go to Caregiver Resources, you'll be able to find and download the PDF of January and February. And if you're watching this later on in the year, just know that you can always go to that link and that page and find the current 2 months. We publish the dates every 2 months. So you'll see the dates, the confirmed dates, and and you can even get an opportunity to join the email list. So a link and QR code are there if you want to join our email list, because I do send out an email reminder the day of the support group. Sometimes I do it the day before, but that's just a little nudge, a little reminder for folks. Although I do encourage you to put the dates in your calendar book, your agenda, maybe printing out the flyer, putting it on your refrigerator. So, but you'll have those. But typically it is a Tuesday evening from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Most people stay the whole time. Some people, after an hour, they have other things to do. They've gotten to ask their question or whatnot. So I encourage you to try that. And that'll be one of the things I encourage you to try this year in 2025. Maybe you've been to our support group before, but maybe just once. Maybe you've been to other support groups. Maybe you're looking for one, you've never done it. This is a good time to think about this being a goal of attending a support group, because support groups are self-care, and self-care is so important for everybody, and especially caregivers. You must take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. You can be the best caregiver possible when your needs are being met. And in the support group, we meet emotional needs of many people. We answer questions. We help people brainstorm, and you get the perspective of and wisdom of the caregivers in the group. So I, of course, have some knowledge um, that I share, that I've learned from other caregivers, that I've learned from the books and the research studies. But having other caregivers in the room, whether it's the virtual room or in-person room when we meet in person, there's just nothing like having that emotional support. But even if it, and like a lot of people come for the knowledge, practical knowledge, but that also comes with emotional support. And what I mean by that is not just uh, feelings and whatnot, but just feeling understood and having a common language with caregivers who are going through very similar situations, I guess is a good way to say that. Like people in the group will understand you, whereas sometimes people, even in your own family, who are not in that role, may not understand. You can come talk to us, and you will understand uh, what is we will understand what you're going through. All right, so that's one of the things. All right, so let's get into the now that I've kind of given a commercial for the support group, let's kind of go through some of these things to consider for 2025. We'll talk about the four M's. Before we do that, I wanted to talk about something. I heard another like speaker and podcaster talk about, and he talked about sitting down um, yourself, or if you're married, sitting down with your spouse and or significant other, and then writing down these words: be, do, and have. So in 2025, what do you want to be? How do you want to change? Who do you want to be in 2025? Building on who you were in 2024. So that's the be. Then there's the do. What are some things that you want to do? These can be fun things. These can be things that maybe you've put off before but are important. Um, it could be, trips. It could be maybe there's an appointment. Maybe there's a medical appointment you've been wanting to make. Maybe it's something around the house that you're having to address, but it's a task. It's something that you want to do and should do and need to do, and maybe you don't want to, but it's something that you feel like must be done in 2025. And the last one is have. What is something that you want to acquire? Something you want to purchase, something that you want to obtain, whatever that may be. And of course, these kind of start in the priority with B, then we get to do, and then we get to have, because B is who you are. That's the most important thing. Do, there are important things that you must do. And then lastly is have, like material objects. So, it's we should be focusing on, and I think this makes sense to all or most people, we focus on who we are, rather than gathering material things. And there's nothing wrong in itself with having material things. But just think about, I'm sure you can see the contrast between those two, be and have. We need tools, we need materials and things like that. But are we getting things that we need, or just things that, we're gonna, stack up and, have to be something to get rid of or dispose of later on. So that's the be in 2025, the do in 2025, and the have in 2025. So think about that. So that's kind of its whole other thought exercise. And maybe you do that separately from your spouse, and then both of y'all do it separately. Then you come together and you kind of compare your notes, and you see where you have some overlap and where y'all going to work together on some things. And then we'll get to something that should be familiar to all of y'all if you're a regular viewer of Caregiver Coffee, and that's the four M's, the four M's of care. That's what matters, that's medication, that's mentation, and mobility. And a while back, I went through, these in detail, and I'll still cover them and explain them. But we do have other videos where we go in detail over, 15 to 20 minutes about the four M's. So, but we'll do it here as well. So these are a framework, or you can even say a lens, a way of looking at your health and well-being in 2025. And again, it's what matters, medication, mentation, and mobility. So all of our care can kind of fall into these categories, but then there could be a fifth one called multi-complexity that includes finance, um, chronic conditions and things like this, but this will cover most of the things. And if you are looking at your health with this framework, it's gonna be pretty comprehensive. You're gonna capture all or most things. The first one that we start off with is what matters, and it is just as it sounds. What matters to you? Why? What gets you motivated? What gets you up in the morning? What motivates you to take your medication? What motivates you to exercise? And some examples that people have shared in the past are, I want to, I want to continue to travel, either domestically or abroad. I want to be able to travel as long as possible, as long as I'm able to get around. I enjoy traveling, and that's what I want to do. I know that that's important to me. Another person might say, could be the same person, could be a different person, say, I want to be there when my granddaughter walks down the aisle and gets married in 2 years. Another may say, my energy and joy comes from being around my grandchildren, my little grandchildren, going to their plays, going to their award ceremonies, going to their soccer games. Someone else might say that my energy comes from, and I get a lot of fulfillment by going on retreats, visiting churches and shrines. Someone might say wood carving. They maybe they have a particular hobby and they get together with a group of people a couple of times a year, regionally, or they get together on a weekly basis with their fraternal organization or their gardening club. And so these are all these things that I mentioned. These are all things that matter to people. And and they may seem obvious to us, but I bring it up because these are things that, as long as we want to continue to do them, they require us having some level of health, a certain level of health. And to get that certain level of health and to stay where we're able to do these things as long as possible means, taking medications that are appropriately prescribed to us. It might mean eating certain things to stay healthy in order to keep doing these things. Might be an exercise regimen. And that might even be what matters to somebody, is being able to exercise. Going to exercise in itself is something that matters to them. So we bring all this up because it's so important to define what is important to you and why you get up in the morning, what you look forward to, what brings you energy in life. So with that, that's going to help sort of, pave the lens for all the other goals. So we'll jump to, the next one is medication. And when we talk about medication, we're talking about the number of medications, the particular types of medications, taking a fresh look at those meds. Are you taking all of them? Are they helping? Are they worth how much you were spending on them? Because they do cost money. Many times, most of the time, it costs money. How easy are they to take? What side effects are there? So it's good at least once a year to have this medical reconciliation with your healthcare provider. And sometimes when there's a change, when there's a health change, it needs to be looked at again. Older adults generally have long lists of medication. They'll have a long list of things that they're taking. Not everybody, for sure, but some do. And it's important to know why you're taking them, to know if they are having a good effect, if they're doing what they should be doing. Because if not, it makes sense to, in a systematic and scientific way with your healthcare provider, to taper off or to take these off your list. But again, this is something that you want to do with your healthcare provider. Next is mentation. Now, this can be your mood, like so depression, anxiety, or maybe you're, the happier or not having those conditions, of course. And it could also be your mentation as far as your cognition, your thinking and your memory. Think about forgetfulness or misjudgment or um, lack of concentration. So, what is your mentation like? What do you feel subjectively? Is there anything that you might complain about as far as your thinking, how you think, um, uh, your speed of thinking, your memory, your recall, really, your short-term recall, and then how's your mood? Do you feel like you're depressed? Do you feel like you have anxiety or you worry a lot? These are things to talk about with family members. These are things certainly to talk about with your healthcare provider. Your healthcare provider can give you what's called some screenings, and ask you just a few questions for each of these things to see if there's any kind of concern. For example, for depression, there's really just two questions that they can ask. And depending on the answer, your honest answer, they may suggest another set of questions. I think it's 9 after that. So all that to try to see, okay, is there some depression here that we can address with counseling? Now, depression doesn't always mean taking a medication. So it should be something that is discussed and screened for. Same thing for cognition and memory, these types of skills for visual, your vision, etc. All these are things that should be assessed, even when, and maybe especially when we have some concerns that they might find something, because like with many diseases, um, the earlier that you can detect something, the more time you have to put plans in place. And it's not as grim as it might sound, because it might be, I want to make sure I get to travel more before things, may progress. Sometimes there are um, signs of dementia that are attributed to things that are not dementia. It could be sleep apnea, it could be an infection, a vitamin deficiency, a thyroid condition. So there's even depression. There are things that can be taken care of with therapy or medication that can help with um, thoughts of or concerns about memory impairment, cognitive impairment. But if you don't address them, you don't know that you can't take those different steps. And now if there is something, if they do screen and find something, then you have more time to do things that are important and what matter to you, and you have time to plan um, how you want to continue to do the things that matter to you throughout the rest of your life. So there are benefits that, even though it might be a little scary. The last one is mobility. And I think we might go over 20 minutes here. The last one is mobility. And this is how you get around, like how you get around inside your house. How do you get around um, outside in the outside world, how quickly you walk, if you have any concerns about balance or falls, if you have fallen, um, it brings in things like using appliances if needed to prevent a fall, includes exercise to maintain your balance. So mobility is basically making sure that you're able to get around that, and it matches and aligns with what matters to you. Because if you're not able to travel because of something going on with arthritis or a feeling of imbalance, then that's something that you want to take care of this year so that you can continue to do what matters to you, which in this case might be travel, or it might be just simple independence, being able to go places and do things with others, and sometimes by yourself. So that's what matters: medication, mentation, which includes memory, thinking, and mood, and mobility. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing about medication and mentation. So there are um, another good reason to look at both medication and mentation, because another reversible cause of like a memory impairment or recall or cognition, could be a medication, could be a high risk medication that you're on that's not suitable for older adults. There, as we get older, there are some medications that we should not take. One class of drugs is called anticholinergics, and it's found in many urinary or incontinence medications, sometimes allergy medicines. That's something that our bodies, as we get older, are not handled well, and they can cause fogginess and confusion and things like that. So, another reason to look at medications and also to consider mentation, because all four of these things, they all work together. It's not just focus on one; they all impact each other, and we start with what matters. So we'll kind of leave it there. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that you take action on these things in 2025. If this feels daunting to you, find a partner. It could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be another family member, and show this video to them. Say, hey, do you want to do these? You want to explore these 4Ms, and have a great 2025, and set yourself up for success, not just this year, but in years to come by looking at these things. So anyway, yeah. So I hope this was helpful. I look forward to many caregiver coffees with you in this year. I hope you wrapped up 2024 in a really good and special way, and are looking forward to 2025 and all the special things that it can bring. Because for all of us, there will be some rainy days, of course, but we look forward to the positive days and all the great things that are to come in our age. So take care, and I look forward to seeing you in 2025. Remember our caregiver support group. We meet on Tuesdays. You can find out more information at the Coast website, and I hope to meet you there one day. Take care.